What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and as promised, I'm going to go through. We have a couple of new monster stat blocks from Uni and the Hunt for the Lost Horn, the new D&D 5e kind of fun intro adventure, which at some point on the channel here in the next little bit, I will end up running it or playing in it. Probably running it realistically. I just got to find a group to run it for, and then we'll stream it, and then we'll put it out probably on the second channel, Nerd Immersion Plays. But that being said, I did say I was going to do a comparison of the 5 or so stat blocks that we have from this to their 2020 or their 2014 version. Now, some of them, for example, like it says Bugbear Warrior, and we just had Bugbear. I'm assuming that's just the new terminology. They seem to basically be the same challenge rating wise. So consider that. I will also say, spoiler alert, if you're going to be running or playing in this and you don't want it spoiled for you, don't watch the rest of this video till after that. You can come back and we can do a comparison. Last thing to mention is they are all asterisked because these stat blocks may not be final. So they may end up changing some aspect of it. But anyway, if you like what I do here, consider subscribing to the channel. Let's go ahead and dive in. You've been spoiler warned, so here we go. All right. So on the left side of your screen is the Uni and the Lost Unicorn or Lost Horn blocks versus the right is the 5e 2014 blocks. So if we take a look at our Blink Dog, it actually loses out on some hit points, drops from 22 down to 16. It looks like a lot of its ability scores basically stayed exactly the same. Now, something that we've been talking about that we noticed with the wolf is a lot of dog-like creatures and a lot of animals really had this concept over here that you see in 2014. Keen hearing and smell, right? So the dog has advantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on hearing or smell. And its perception was normally +3. Now it's +5. So effectively, they've given the Blink Dog expertise in perception. So this applies across the board. And I think, don't know this for certain, but my assumption is the general concept of trying to make things a little cleaner and more streamlined come 2024 to make it easier for newer players. So instead of having a situational perception check advantage that the DM or the player, whoever's using the Blink Dog, would need to continue to check, oh, you know what, it was supposed to have advantage on that. That was a hearing check. Instead, it's just, hey, we'll just give it expertise in perception, so that way it's just better at perceiving overall, and that kind of is reflected, like what was once keen hearing and smell is now kind of reflected as expertise in perception. Still has the same stealth check that also bumps up because of that expertise, their passive perception. And then again, still same languages, same challenge ratings. Their bite does a little bit less damage. It used to do a d6 +1. It now does a d4 +3. So I guess, you know what? Oh, and its to hit is greater. Its to hit used to be +3. Now it's +5. So better to hit and better consistent damage instead of a d6 +1, where we've switched basically from a strength-based bite to a dexterity-based bite. Honestly, I'd rather have a d4 +3 because I'm going to get more consistent guaranteed damage anyway. And then the teleport seems to be the same. However, it used to say here with the teleport, before or after teleporting, the dog can make one bite attack. Oh, I see. Instead of it being an action to teleport, it is now a bonus action to teleport. So that's just a general quality of life improvement there, which means if you get the recharge, you can teleport and bite every turn. And it does still recharge on a 4 to 6, which is pretty solid overall. All right, next up we have the Bugbear Warrior. I think the closest analog we're going to get is just the base 5e Bugbear. They're both challenge rating 1. Although the Bugbear Warrior here, it is now a Fey creature. We saw this sort of change with Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse, where all of the player character goblinoids were turned into Fey, right? So the Goblin is Fey, the Bugbear is Fey, the Hobgoblin is Fey. Now that's also being reflected in the enemy monsters. So as a reminder, it also says Fey Goblinoid, so I don't know if there's going to be sub things, but that means that like Charm Person and Hold Person do not work on a Bugbear anymore, as they are no longer considered a humanoid, they are considered a Fey creature. So, hit points went up, but the armor class went down. Looks like our ability scores are the same across the board. Lost proficiency in survival. But what's interesting is we have this gear. Do you see this over here? Gear. Hide armor, 3 light hammers. So this might be what we're going to find out about, like how every monster is going to have sort of like a gear block or a gear section. So if you're looting a Bugbear, you know what it has on it. It has hide armor, and it has 3 light hammers. So if you get to it before it throws the hammers, that's what you'll be able to loot off of it. Still has dark vision of 60 feet. It lost brute, which was an extra damage die. It lost surprise attack, unless the difference between a Bugbear warrior and a Bugbear is significant. My assumption is because they're both challenge rating 1 and a lot of the other aspects, including the actual stats themselves, are identical, that this is supposed to be the analog for 2024. So no more extra damage die, no more surprise attack. Instead, it gets the ability Abduct. The Bugbear's speed isn't halved when it moves a creature grappled by it. Remember, we do have the new, if we're looking at this again with a 2024 lens, the new grapple rules is grapple happens on an unarmed strike. And if you're moving a creature, your movement's normally halved. So, or something along those lines. Not necessarily halved, but you take less movement. Either way, now that's not the case for the Bugbear. They did bump them up to a 10-foot reach on their melee attacks, which matches what the player characters have. So their unarmed strikes does a d8 plus 2 bludgeoning damage, and if the target's medium or smaller, it has the grappled condition. Until the grapple ends, it can't make an unarmed strike against another target, and then it has its 3 light hammers that it throws. With advantage, if the target is because it's melee or ranged, the light hammer. With advantage if the target is grappled by the Bugbear. And this does 3d4 plus 2 bludgeoning. That's actually not... That's interesting that the hammers from the Bugbear do 3d4. And their punches are pretty solid overall. So their punches are similar in like damage in a lot of ways to the Morning Star, but a little bit less. But it comes with the built-in grapple. And then you've got the light hammer here, which is advantage if the target is grappled by the Bugbear, and pretty sizable damage. So, I'm wondering if the brute and the surprise attack. Well, again, surprise is different now, so that's probably part of the reason why surprise attack is gone. It says if it surprises a creature and hits it with an attack on the first round, it does extra damage. Well, you know what? No, even though the surprise rules have changed, that kind of thing is still possible. But I'm wondering if it's just Bugbears were like too brutal for level 1 parties with the 2d8 hit and the potential for extra damage on a surprise. So I wonder if it just was too much, so they had to ratchet it back a little bit, but they still gave it some other battlefield control abilities, which I like. All right, next up we have the Bullywug. Again, this is a challenge rating 1/4. I'm assuming it's the same because they're the same challenge rating. Same armor, same hit points. Their speed, or walking speed, went up 10 feet to 30 feet. They bumped up their dexterity to a 14 from a 12 previously, which bumps up in turn their stealth. They are still amphibious. Now, it used to have in 2014 Speak with Frogs and Toads, advantage on stealth checks made in swampy terrain, and a boosted jump ability that let them jump 20 feet. That was their long jump, 10 feet was their high jump without a running start. Amphibious is still there. They can still communicate with frogs and toads. Leap has been shifted to a bonus action, so now it's actually utilizable in combat, and this mimics the jump spell. It can jump up to 30 feet by spending 10 feet of movement. That's a huge improvement, and I hope we see this mechanic carried through for any other creature that has jumping. I'm also hoping that's the case with like Boots of Striding and Springing. You're going to do the same thing. In fact, I'm going to use that in my games just based on this. And then it used to have a bite attack and a spear, and it would make 2 attacks, 1 with each. Instead, it has only a single attack, and it has an insectile rapier that does a D8 plus 2 piercing damage plus a D4 poison damage. Honestly, that kind of works out as a mitigation, removing the bite and the spear attack, and then kind of almost combining them into this insectile rapier, which just sounds cool. I'm very hopeful that there's a piece of art showing what it actually looks like. Is this like just like a big dragonfly you're using as a sword? That'd be actually kind of cool. The only thing they lost was swamp camouflage, and that's about it. But overall, I'd say, going from 2 attacks to 1 attacks or to 1 attack is definitely a downgrade in power wise, because that's 2 potential chances to crit as opposed to 1. However, they are challenge rating 1/4, and them having 2 attacks as a 1/4 challenge rating creature does seem a little bit of a stretch. All right, next up we have the Mage stat block. Okay, it has 15 armor class all the time. I think they're just including mage armor always. HP almost more than doubled, though, from 40 HP to 81 HP. That's a pretty significant jump. It used to have saving throw proficiencies. Oh, you know what? The saving throw proficiencies, I didn't even realize they're baked in over here. So there might have been, some of these other ones may have had. I'm not seeing proficiency in saving throws with any of these now. So Mage does have proficiency in intelligence and wisdom. Okay, that's still there. The +6 is common. It was any 4 languages. Now it's any 3 languages. And again, this original Mage is from the 2014 Dungeon Master's Guide. So it still has the spells with the slots, as you can see here. Whereas the new Mage is more in line with what we've seen and what we will see in 2024. So it says the Mage, instead of casting a spell using its spellcasting block, which had a DC 14, which it still does, or stabbing with a dagger, it now has multi-attack. The Mage makes 3 arcane burst attacks. These bursts have a +6 to hit. They can be melee or range, and they just do a flat 3d10 force damage. Again, force damage not very easily resisted, and the fact that this thing gets to make 3 of those attacks. It also has spellcasting, as mentioned, has Detect Magic, Light, Mage Armor, which has been included in the stat block, Mage Hand, and Prestidigitation at Will. Those are cantrips. Twice per day each, it has Fireball, Fly, and Suggestion, and once per day it has Cone of Cold. Now, listed under its reactions, it says twice per day the Mage casts Shield in response to the spell's trigger. So it has 2 shield usage. And then once per day, Counterspell. The Mage casts Counterspell in response to the spell's trigger using the same spellcasting ability in the spellcasting. Okay. Or in the spellcasting above. So, this Mage it has a lot of the similar spells. I'm noticing there are some missing. No Greater Invisibility, no Ice Storm, no Misty Step, no Magic Missile. But ultimately, this guy can do the big hits with the Fireball and the Cone of Cold. And it does have that 1 free counterspell a day and 2 free shields, which is pretty nice. So I think this Mage and the fact that it can just do 3 attacks that all do 3d10 and that doesn't even spend a spell slot, I think the Mage got a serious improvement for sure. Sprite we'll skip over. And last but not least, we have the Worg, the large wolf-like creature, goblin mount. He sees the same, hit points the same, speed the same. Looks like all the stats are the same. We had perception +4. Now, see, this throws out my concept from before. It had a +4 perception and dark vision is 60 feet. It doesn't have expertise or maybe it does. Yeah, I guess it does have expertise in perception, but the 2014 Worg essentially had expertise in perception plus advantage on perception checks. So this is one of those instances where it's actually a nerf, because previously it had the same stats, but also constant advantage. Now it just has the +4. And then its bite attack used to do 2d6 +3, and the creature had to make a DC 13 strength save or be knocked prone. That damage has been cut down from 2d6 plus 3 to a d8 plus 3, but the next attack roll made against the target before the start of the Worg's next turn has advantage. So this again seems to follow along the logic that we've seen, where it's basically saving throw or attack, not both. And by that I mean, if you have an ability that forces you to make a saving throw, let's say it forces you to make a saving throw or get knocked prone, let's say, and you are in a situation where you're like, okay, I don't want to do that. Let me make a save and make the save. I don't get knocked prone. Everything's fine. In the past, we would have had attacks that would be like, I'm going to bite you. And then if I hit, then you make a saving throw. And then if you fail the saving throw, you get knocked prone. This is a great example. The wolf stat block in the player's handbook showcases this. 2014 wolf was I bite you. You make a save. If you fail the save, you get knocked prone. 2024 wolf is I bite you and I hit with that bite. You are prone if you're within the size limitations. So it's no longer this kind of dual situation where I hit you with one thing and then if the second thing goes right, then it happens. It's just I either force you to make a saving throw, you do it, or I make an attack roll and then I succeed and then it happens. So that's kind of what it's showcasing here with the Worg. The next attack roll made against the target before the Worg's next turn has advantage. You can't do anything about it. That's just happening. And I'm so sorry. I forgot that at the bottom we have a stat block that we haven't seen yet. The Bullywug Bog Sage. Now, there are other things like Bullywug Croakers, but none of them had the same challenge rating, so I think this might be something wholly new. So we've got decent HP and AC for a challenge rating 4 creature. It is amphibious. It can speak with frogs and toads. It can make 2 Bullywug Putrid Staff attacks, which are a melee attack that does a d8 plus 3 bludgeoning plus 3d6 poison. That's like average 17 damage on a hit, and it can make 2 of those every turn. It also has a little bit of spellcasting, dancing, lights at will, and Ray of Sickness at will, which Ray of Sickness is pretty severely improved in 2024. We'll talk about that in a second. Fog Cloud and Grease twice per day, Vitriolic Sphere once per day, and then their Leap ability as a bonus action. So if you take a look at Ray of Sickness, it's way better now because it just poisons automatically, right? It says it says it's a level 2 version as well, which means it adds another d8. So make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, the target takes 2d8 poison damage and has the poison condition until the end of your next turn. This is another example of what I was just talking about. In 2014, it was like, I hit you, you take poison damage, make a saving throw. If you fail the saving throw, then you're poisoned. In 2024, it's the trigger, the uncertainty rather, comes from the attack roll. I hit you with the attack roll, you take poison damage, you are poisoned as per the condition until the end of your next turn. And as mentioned, the Bullywug Bog Sage does state that it casts it as a 2nd level version. So it's unlimited at will. Ray of Sickness does the 3d8 poison damage out to 60 feet and poisons the creature on contact. So that is a pretty powerful Bullywug for sure. So these kind of concepts, like the way we've seen the way the Mage works and the Bullywug works with the extra attacks that just do pretty sizable damage, and then they also have spells, is what I imagine we're going to see more of when we start diving into the 2024 Monster Manual. So anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions on these new stat blocks. Do you like one or the other based on, not talking aesthetics on this one, not like what the stat block looks like, but the content of the stat blocks? What do you think? I mean, I see some downsides and upsides in all of the things we saw, right? Bugbears to me were kind of an iconic low-level threat to people because of the fact that they had brute and surprise attack. However, maybe it's better that they're not basically like a one-hit kill machine against a low-level party, and they, it's a little bit more balanced. And again, the stuff we're seeing with these high-end magic users where they just have like a cool, consistent attack they can do that doesn't even touch their spells, I really like. And this Bullywug Bog Sage, he's going to show up in other things. Now, again, as I mentioned at the start, the ones with the asterisks, the ones we covered in this video specifically, those are still considered to be draft stat blocks and may be subject to change. So who knows, we may come back and remake this video at some point in the future or when the Monster Manual comes out or what have you. But Anyway, let me know your thoughts and opinions on all this in the comments down below. I'll see you all next time.